Everybody, thanks for joining us again today. As always, I've got a really great guest. I've got my guest. Her name is Lisa Fortenbaugh, and she owns a company called Platinum HR Consulting. I met Lisa through a networking group that I belong to, some friends, and she seemed like she had a really compelling story. I said, "Hey, let's go to lunch," and because I want to find out more about your business. And after getting a chance to meet her, I just thought, man, she's really got some great things to share with our audience. So, with that said, I'm going to bring her on. But before I do, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. Let's get started. Hey, Lisa.
Hello there.
Well, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you doing this with me. We have a wide range of people that we like to interview, but the one thing we always try to stick with are people that we feel have an incredible value to add, to the general masses. I refer business to Lisa. I want to make sure that everyone else that knows me and that is watching this knows that Lisa is really incredible at what she does. She's part of a networking group that I belong to that we highly vet all of our members. And, I met her and I just said, hey, let's grab some lunch. Grab some lunch. I started listening to like what her type of clientele was. So without giving away too much, what I want to do is I'm going to start with just by asking Lisa, Lisa, why don't you just briefly kind of tell everybody, like, how long you've been doing this, what made you want to, branch off on your own and be a consultant, and then we'll get into some of the juicier stuff.
Sure thing. Well, I have been in the field of human resources for over 25 years. I've worked in very large corporations, startups, international HR, and I decided to branch off into HR consulting 5 years ago. I really wanted to work with small businesses. Without any sort of HR support, a small business is going to have a very hard time succeeding in the market. Most small businesses, 75 employees, even sometimes 100 or less, do not typically have any HR support, or if they do, it's very little. So I started Platinum HR Consulting Group to be able to offer human resources, strategy, support, and solutions to these growing businesses.
So, first of all, you must have gotten started when you were 10.
Yeah.
But
No,
I think I think that I think it might help if we identify, like, some of the big things that employers are facing, when they don't have a massive budget. I mean, you want to act like a multinational corporation and you want to have, great guidelines and rules that everybody follows, and you want to behave yourself and make sure that you treat your employees like if you were a Fortune 500 company. But, somebody like Lisa may cost you a lot of money. Aside from that, Lisa also told me that, a lot of companies that she deals with, they do have somebody that's in human resources, but there's somebody that, is kind of growing into the role that doesn't have the decades of experience that Lisa has. So they will hire them to come in and assist and really just put a bow on everything and make sure that everything's done correctly. So, Lisa, I had asked you earlier, like, could you come up with like a story that has really kind of puts the exclamation point on why a company needs somebody like you? And you told me this great story about a company that you still work with today that had one of these people that we're talking about, and you came in and really made a difference in this business. So why don't you go ahead and share that story with everybody?
Sure thing. Sometimes when I hear myself tell the story, it's kind of hard to believe that people do this in companies. So this is a client we still work with today. They're in LA. They have approximately 50 employees. And we were hired to do an HR assessment, to start out with an HR assessment, which is typically what we start with before we start with our HR advisory service, which is a monthly retainer. We need to assess where the HR function is at. So as we started working with the company, we did the HR assessment, and a few things seemed really off within HR, but we couldn't quite put our finger on it. They hired us to keep working with them, and we originally started to work into the set up the HR advisory service. So once we did that and we'd established some trust with the company, they were still having a lot of problems with, I won't name their payroll company, but it's a large payroll company they're having a lot of problems with. So they gave us the login to it to see why they were having so many payroll issues. Once we got in, we're looking at a lot of their HR setup and payroll, things were not adding up. They weren't making sense. All the time, their ops manager, who also handled HR, this is what we see in a lot of small businesses, is the ops manager, the CFO, the admin assistant, someone's been tasked with HR that doesn't actually have HR experience, which can be kind of detrimental to the company. That the person might be trying to do their best job, but if they don't understand HR, sometimes they're doing more harm than good. So anyways, this person who was their ops manager really didn't seem to want us in anything, no passwords, nothing. Anyways, the business owner gave us the password into the payroll. And what we found, long story short, what we found is she was paying herself an extra, right, somewhere around $4,000 a month in additional payroll. So she was a salaried employee, making somewhere around $175,000 a year. So way overpaid, but apparently that was not enough for her. She was going in and adding in extra hours for another paycheck, which amounted to about $4,000 a month. It'd been going on for about 6 months. Business owner had no idea, and we had to break the news to him. And not easy to do. He was, needless to say, blown away. He'd had this person there a very long time. He trusted her. She was handling she had her hands in every part of the business. And we worked with him to document and terminate her. You know, she was terminated, and he had to decide if he wanted to press charges against her or not. But this doesn't happen everywhere. It's a little bit more of an extreme story, but it's a good example of, had we not come in to do the HR assessment, had he not brought in an outside consulting company that really knows HR, this could have gone on for a year or two. So we actually saved him more money than he's ever, still to this day, than he's spent to have us on a monthly retainer for over a year now. He's still in the savings instead of us costing him any money at all, because of the amount of money we saved him from the employee who was stealing.
Well, the one thing you also didn't mention that you told me is that she actually convinced this guy to begin with that she deserved $175,000, that it was totally normal, and that was probably double what somebody in her position would get. So, I mean, this guy has got to love you. I'm sure there are lots of your clients that do, because, I mean, I can only speak for myself. I've owned a couple of companies in my lifetime, and I think the trap that you get into is that when you become good at something, you start to think to yourself, well, I'm really good at this. I should be doing this for myself. And, you know, just because you're good at it doesn't mean you know how to run a company. Like, I had to learn that the hard way. I mean, put me in a position where I work for another company and I soar, you know, and then all of a sudden, I've got to figure out all the minutia that it takes to run the company, the accounting, the inventory, the contracts with employees, the taxes, the insurance, the medic. And this is the other thing, is that, you know, I think that one of the things that somebody like you can wind up really saving a client a ton of money, or a business owner, is, you know, just making sure that they're doing everything legal, and that, you know, they're not having any issues. You mentioned with this particular client, you actually coached this guy on how to show her the door, right?
Right. We actually joined in. This one was via Zoom, but we actually assisted, which we do for clients, in the termination, because it was such a high level termination. He needed to be, although she was stealing and we had made sure all the proof was there. So when the termination happened, there was no, you've discriminated against me, or I was being harassed, or you're firing me because of my age or my race or whatever. We clearly had documented what she had been doing. Nonetheless, you still need to make sure the termination is done correctly. So we were part of that, and and he showed her the door, and he still has us on retainer to assist with many other employee issues, and that's it. It kind of brings up a good point with companies, small and that are hiring, that if you do not hire correctly, if you don't know what you're doing when you're hiring, you end up with a lot of employee problems. So we have helped him look at who he's hiring and the whole onboarding process to reduce the amount of terminations that need to be done. A lot of teaching and training along the way in terms of hiring, interviewing, onboarding, hiring. That's another one of the areas we help our HR advisory service, or those are our monthly retainer clients. So we are still working with him today. He seems to be pretty happy. The trust was built really with what we had found, and he knows we're going to tell him if something doesn't look right. And California is I'm sure anyone who's a business owner knows, this is a very hard state to manage your compliance. The HR compliance is very complex, which it's unfortunate. It keeps us very busy. It's unfortunate for business owners that you actually do need assistance and additional support to help navigate through the employment laws that are already there, and then the ones that are coming up new. And then they also, as soon as we get it all figured out, then California changes them. And then throw COVID in the mix and everything that had to be managed during COVID. And, it makes for a pretty crazy environment for business owners.
Well, I think that also in this day and age of the internet, there's a lot of misinformation around out there, and we live in a litigious era, where, you could easily say something that you would think would be very innocent when you're hiring somebody or firing them, for that matter, that could wind up coming back to haunt you. The last thing in the world you want to do is to part ways with an employee and then turn around and have them say, that you did something wrong, and now you wind up in court with attorney bills. And, I would think that you would be worth your weight in gold, Lisa, to somebody who is, riding that line, whether they're already successful or whether they're on their way to being successful, I think is not something to consider. I think that, I guess maybe if you're a one-man show, maybe you have one person, maybe you have two people that are, your brother and your wife and, your cousins that work for you. You can maybe get away with a lot more than you would. But when you get to the point, I think is that why you draw the line at 10, or not draw the line, but you typically work with, 10 to 100 employees, is because of that reason?
Well, yeah, kind of. When they're small, so a few employees, 5, 6 employees, a lot of the times, you're right. It's family, it's friends. They're winging it, and they either maybe, when a company is small, you're your IT person, you're doing the accounting, you're doing the HR, because you're building the business and you probably don't have the funds to be able to pay for all these outside services. When you start to get to over 5, we do have clients that are at 5, and we have worked with some startups, but it depends on the business owner. That would be a very proactive business owner. A lot of business owners are not interested, or like I said, don't have the funds when they've only got a few employees to be so focused on HR. But honestly, just getting started, even a few employees or 5, it's really, when we have helped clients, it's typically an employee handbook and like some onboarding materials for when they hire. So there's not a lot that the company needs, but at least we can help them get started. As you build more towards 10, well, at 5, you have some major laws hit. So there's one. So under 5, there's less management that needs done. When you get up to 10, now you're onboarding, you're probably offboarding. There might be a termination. You might have people leaving. You've got typically at 10, you might have a performance problem, an employee who has attendance issues. So now you're getting into more management of employees, and the business owner's like, well, I'm an expert in whatever it is, architecture. And, we work with a lot of, architecture firms or medical offices, and doctors are like, I'm an expert in this, but I don't know how to handle, these employees. Like, I started the business to be able to provide this type of service to clients, but I don't know what to do when the employee just stops showing up. Like, what do I do?
Sure.
So yeah, as the numbers of employees grow, unfortunately, usually the problems grow with it, and then more HR support is needed. So that's why typically we're usually working with 10 to 15 employees, upwards of 100. We've even worked with a client that has 300 employees and really no internal HR support. They have someone kind of handling HR who's tasked with a lot of other jobs, and they don't have a real HR background. So we support or assist in that way, where they don't have the expertise to handle some of the higher level HR issues that come up. That's rare.
Gotcha.
At 300, you've got some HR staff.
So if I was a business owner and I was watching this, and I was, some of the things that we were talking about was resonating. How does it typically work with you, Lisa? Do you come in and do you interview them? Do you come in and do an evaluation? Do you charge for the evaluation? Do you charge for the interview? I mean, how does it work?
It's a good question. So it's pretty simple and straightforward. So when we have a client refer to us or just contacts us through the website, we schedule a discovery call, no charge. What we're trying to do is answer the potential client's questions, understand what's going on, let them know what we do, and see if there's a fit, really. So on average, it's usually maybe a 20, 30-minute call, and we're letting them know if they're interested in working with us, like how we move forward. With most companies, let's say 15 employees or more, we typically start with an HR assessment. It's like a good starting point, where we will review all of the core HR functions within the company and build a roadmap out from there in terms of what needs to be done. The first priority when we do that is we're looking for compliance issues. And I have yet to do one with a company where we did not find an area where we did not find that they're not compliant somewhere. Typically we're finding 3, 4, 5 areas where if they were just to let it go, eventually we probably would have turned into a lawsuit, fines, audits. So that more than pays for itself. I mean, there's issues we found within companies that had they let that go, it could have cost them $80,000 to $100,000. A very easy example is I-9s either not completed or not completed correctly. That's a form that needs filled out when an employee is hired. And a lot of companies don't have them completed correctly, and you will be fined for every line that is wrong on an I-9. So we audit I-9s, what's in personnel files. We get into clocking in and out, break time. There's companies that they're paying people's independent contractors that don't they don't qualify for that. We've seen them paying employee salaries, so that would be an exempt employee where that employee's position doesn't qualify for that. So that would have been a fairly large fine, potential lawsuit as well. So these are the types of things we're picking up on in the audit, and then we come back to them with the results. We have highlighted or red flagged anything where they're completely out of compliance, and those are the areas that we would need to start on first to get them compliant. Then after that, the roadmap looks like best practices in HR in terms of hiring, motivating employees, engaging employees. So we've added to it over the years. So I'm really happy with what we provide right now. I think it's like gold for an employer. I really do. Like I 100% believe in how helpful this is for employers. And the feedback we always get is like, wow, like I had no idea. So that feels good to be able to help like that, help a small business.
I don't think most of us know, or I mean, it's, we tend to paint in broad strokes, when we think about our future, like when we're young, we want to be an attorney or an astronaut. We want to get married. We want to have kids. Like we don't actually think about what it takes to do any of that stuff. And then as we get older, we realize we go, oh, wow, it's not that easy, I guess, but I do, I think that anybody watching this who is in business for themselves is going to get this. And I think this was incredible, Lisa. What I'd also like to mention that Lisa shared with me that is worth mentioning right now. If you are in Lisa's business and you're really good at what you do, she wants to talk to you because, whereas some people are having problems laying off, Lisa's hiring right now. So, it doesn't mean that, if you're washing cars that she wants to talk to you, but if you have experience in this business and you feel like you would make a good fit with Lisa, then we're going to have all of her information. In fact, you can see it down there scrolling at the bottom. Reach out to her. Anything you'd like to add to that, Lisa?
No, actually, thank you for mentioning that. And it just goes to show how well you listen, because I think I mentioned that at lunch like 2 weeks ago. And you remembered. And I'm interviewing, but I have not hired anyone yet. So the good news is we're busy, we're growing, and I need more HR help. As the clientele base grows and our monthly retainer clients come on, I've got to hire more HR business partners, I call them, to come in and support the clients. However, HR is high in demand right now for companies, and I want to hire the right person. So I am definitely putting the feelers out there. So I appreciate you mentioning it. And if somebody watching this thinks they would be a good fit, I'd be happy to talk to you. HR.
And even if you're watching this 2 years from now, still hit up Lisa.
I'll probably be hiring. Yeah, we'll still be around.
You never know. I mean, you might have twice the amount of business after doing this live stream with me, and you need a couple extra people.
That's true. I might be hiring more than one person. So
there you go. Well, is there anything in parting that you think we didn't cover, Lisa, that you'd like to share with everybody, or you think that we covered most of the things?
I think we covered most everything. Probably the one thing I didn't mention that we do a lot of are employee handbooks. And a question I get a lot is, do I have to have an employee handbook? Do I need one? Why do I need one? They're not required. However, there are about 5 or 6 policies when you're in California that you are required to have these very specific policies, like you have to do sexual harassment. And so if you're required of those policies, do you want to just piecemeal them out and hand them to an employee, or do you want to look like a professional organization and put them inside of, as part of your handbook with your benefits and your time off, and communicate culture, what your culture is to your employees? And really, not only does it answer a lot of questions for the employees, but it helps you, and if you have management staff, manage. So as we go through the handbook process with clients, we're walking them through pieces that sometimes they haven't thought about. They're not thinking about the questions they're going to get from employees. So we've already helped you answer all that. Like, well, why would I want PTO versus vacation and sick time? Well, how do I know which one I want in my handbook? So, we're walking you through here's the pros of this, here's the cons of this, here's how it works when somebody quits, here's what you have to pay out. If you do it this way, you don't pay this out. Holiday time, I have people working from home. Should I have a work from home policy? So all these things as a business owner, you don't always think about when we're doing the handbook. We're able to walk through all these policies, all these questions that they're inevitably going to come up. Well, now it's covered. And then when you hire people on, you're handing them a very well put together professional employee handbook, and the employees feel like, okay, I'm at a real company here that's really got my best interest at heart. And so we do produce a lot of employee handbooks every month. We've done a lot for small, and sometimes companies starting out, if they know they're going to grow, they've got 2 or 3 employees and like, I want a handbook. And sometimes we have clients come to us and they've got 25 employees and they've never had a handbook. So, but they're very important for every company. I highly recommend them. They're not required, but like I said, there's 5 or 6 policies that are required no matter what, whether they're in a handbook or not.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Lisa, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you doing this. I know your time is valuable, and you know, I just can't wait to watch you get that next employee and to try and help you grow. And I know my audience appreciates this as well. Guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell, and let's hit up Lisa. You know, if you got any questions, maybe put some comments below, whether you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or wherever the heck you're watching it. If you have any questions, you can reach directly out to her. You can reach to me, and you can also comment down there and we'll try and get back to you. So with that said, thank you guys for watching this. And Lisa, thank you. I can't wait to get together again and have lunch again.
Definitely. Thank you, Barry, for having me on. It's always enjoyable talking to you.
Awesome. Thank you guys.